I'm the Irish guy, and Gareth Southgate at Manchester United is hilarious. It is all over the media right now. Apparently, Jim Ratcliffe wants the England manager to replace Erik Ten Hag in the summer. What? Jim Ratcliffe has been heavily linked with appointing 2 managers ever since he took power at Manchester United. And, they're both English. By the way, okay, I know his full title is Sir. Yes, Sir James Arthur. Now I've just got visions of that bloated X Factor winner being a knight. But okay, Sir James Arthur Ratcliffe has been fussing over 2 English managers, Graham Potter and Gareth Southgate. I mean, Manchester United is a club which demands gaffers who exude confidence, charisma, power. A weedier set of geeks you could not find than those 2 fools. 2 guys who look like they both belong on the set of Muppets Treasure Island. Both Potter and Southgate are the epitome of that awkward British stereotype that Americans draw cartoons about. Both men look like gangly, socially unconfident, bookworms with terrible teeth. Even their names, Gareth and Graham. They sound like 2 art college dropouts who since set up a burger van business in a field. They look like people who probably got a Hufflepuff tattoo on their chest. You know what's weird though? I remember reading about Gareth Southgate being added to Manchester United's managerial shortlist all the way back in January 2019. They were apparently wanting him to be the guy who replaced Jose Mourinho, which would be very much like somebody choosing to divorce the Queen of Iceland to shack up with that toothless old bint who sells potatoes under a bridge, and it looks like a cross between Miriam Margolyes and a squash beef pie. Southgate has replaced 3 managers in his coaching career: Steve McLaren, Stuart Pearce, and Big Sam Allardyce. 3 decent bosses in their day, I suppose, but nowadays, yeah, chuck either of them into the ultra-fast modern Premier League now, and it'll be a bit like defrosting some mad scientist who's been living in someone's fridge since the 14th century and expecting him to understand how to drive a car. Nah, he'd probably try and eat the steering wheel, just thinking it's some weird futuristic cookie. But if Southgate has been linked to the Manchester United job since the 2018 World Cup, then it really does mean that his name has been attached to one of the biggest clubs in the world for nearly 6 years. That international management can hide how bad a manager truly is. Michael O'Neill was an absolutely terrific Northern Ireland boss. I mean, he just grabbed a bunch of counties in Ulster and not only qualified them for Euro 2016, but he even got them out of the group. Everyone thought this mini magician was an almost world-class coach in hiding. Yeah, he then dipped his toes back into club football and turned out to be some miserable wet failure at Stoke. I think it's gonna be funny when Southgate inevitably gets his next club job, because then we can all see him for what he truly is when he has to coach day in, day out. Seeing him be linked to Manchester United for half a decade, it is really crazy. It's a bit like hearing that a mega successful celebrity like Rihanna has been pining for the fat bloke who works in a 2-star pizza shop in Croydon. You know, the one who sweats when he eats, has never spoken to a female other than his mum for longer than a minute, and oh yeah, can often be found wiping his armpits with donuts whilst chewing his own eyebrows. If Southgate was given the Manchester United gig, things would be so hilariously mediocre. With him and Dan Ashworth working together again, it would be a very English shopping list. I know Ashworth helped scour some hidden gems in South America while he was at Brighton, but at Newcastle, of the 11 players bought under his watch, 7 have been English. Some of them have been great, like Pope, Gordon, and Livramento, but did anybody's pulses really race when the club unveiled the likes of Harvey Barnes, Lewis Hall, and Harrison Ashby? I mean, the last one, by the way, by Christmas, he'll be a nearly 24-year-old right back with less than 20 career appearances under his belt. He is about as experienced as I am at getting married to squirrels on a Japanese farm. That's what Ineos and Ratcliffe were calling the shots at Nice. They also regularly went British over there in France, like weird deals for Joe Bryant, Ross Barkley, and Aaron Ramsey. And I know Kasper Schmeichel is proudly Danish, but come on, he lived in England between 2002 and 2022. That is most of his life. I mean, he's not English, no, but he's definitely got the country stamped on his soul. Even now, Manchester United are currently linked with signing Ross Barkley. Yeah, that transfer link would have excited the fans 10 years ago. I mean, even 5 years ago, they'd have been open to it, but now, it'd be like if you'd offered those fans the chance to lick cat diarrhea off their mum's toothbrush. Yeah, he's been great for Luton, but this would be like when Liverpool bought Charlie Adam from Blackpool. Actually, no, this is worse, because Adam was still only 25, despite looking like a 47-year-old bloke on a construction site, while Barkley is fully in his 30s. Look, I actually think the Manchester United made some sensible, shrewd moves ever since Ratcliffe seized power. I mean, they stole an Amar Barada from Manchester City, who was the chief football operations officer at arguably the best run club in the world. I mean, if you forget about all those nasty charges, he is now the new Manchester United chief executive, while Dan Ashworth is going to be the next sporting director. After spending a few months tripping so many roses and weeds, he's probably going to feel like burning his garden to the ground. I mean, that's his prison now. Even as we speak, he's probably choking on a flower, but Ashworth He's sensible. He has worked for England, Brighton, Newcastle. He's not a flash big name. No, but he makes sense. Lads, it wasn't long ago. Manchester United were stopping so recklessly in the dark that Rio Ferdinand was in talks to become technical director. What? The bloke who was so aimless and bored after retirement that he tried to become a boxer? To be fair, not sure why he was refused a professional boxing license when KSI now has one? When Mike Tyson is just being sanctioned to fight a bloke 30 years his junior? A 39-year-old professional athlete like Ferdinand would actually have made more sense as a boxer than a Manchester United technical director when he sounds like he's never even read a book. That was aimless and random and almost a publicity stunt for the fans, but this makes sense. But links to Southgate do not. To be fair though, while we are on the subject, Dan Ashworth is given monstrous, massive, huge credit for the Brighton success stories. But I'm sorry, we must also let him shoulder the blame for ditching Victor Gyökeres after 0 minutes on a Premier League pitch. This Swedish hotshot was at Brighton for 4 years. He was constantly just loaned out and forgotten before being sold to Coventry for just £1 million. That was arguably even worse negligence than getting Newcastle to spend £60 million on Sandro Tonali when he was on the verge of a 10-month ban, because Gyökeres is now 25 and already has 50 direct goal involvements in his debut season for Sporting Lisbon. 36 goals and 14 assists in just 39 games? That is insane. Those are Messi-esque level stats. Yes, Ashworth got praise for signing one Swedish monster at Newcastle, and rightly so, but he also let a Swedish monster squirm out of his hands. I mean, that kid is probably going to get an £80 million move to Arsenal or Chelsea in the summer, and Brighton sold him for less money than the sidemen probably get for doing a toothpaste advert. Horrible. If Southgate rocks up at Manchester United, I mean, Harry Maguire is getting a new 5-year deal. Scrap that. I mean, he'll probably have it written in his contract that Maguire is getting handsomely paid until he's 42 and stinking of moldy cheese strings. What this would mean, definitively, is that Jadon Sancho would be instantly sold, as I don't think Southgate has any patience for him either. I mean, does anybody really think that the England manager is carefully analysing Borussia Dortmund games? Nah. He did enough of that when Jude Bellingham was in town. He ain't going back out there to Germany to keep an eye on some meddlesome, troublesome brat who does look like he wouldn't be above throwing chocolate muffins at the homeless for kicks. The media are saying that Southgate's possible arrival would be welcomed by many of Manchester United's English stars. Yeah, I know one English star who would not be amused by this. In fact, if you listen carefully, you can probably hear the faint sound of Aaron Wan-Bissaka howling like a wolf. This is a £60 million right back who has been consistently ignored by Southgate for all of his career. Southgate has shown him such little love that Wan-Bissaka, he turns 27 years old soon and is still eligible to go and play for Dr. Congo instead. Southgate has picked about 100 England squads, and Wan-Bissaka has only been called up once in August 2019, where he had to withdraw due to a back injury. I'm pretty sure Southgate felt pressured into picking him because he had literally just moved to one of the world's biggest clubs for a monster £60 million just weeks before. If Gareth had chosen to omit him then, when his stock was at its hottest, when his name was trending on Twitter every day, then I think people might have started to question whether or not AWB was porking Southgate's dog behind his back. Honestly, if Southgate gets the Manchester United job, then Wan-Bissaka is immediately getting flogged back to Crystal Palace. Lads, it used to be Southgate who was the one desperately lurking around the Manchester United brand. I mean, back in 2009, after he just helped Middlesbrough get relegated to the Championship in his first and only club management job, the paper said he was trying to sell them Stuart Downing in return for both Gary Neville and Paul Scholes. I know they were old, but trying to convince both Neville and Scholes to ruin their one club legacy, to dip their toes into a championship team, agreeing to live in a town that probably smells of puke. There was ambition, and then there was that. Yes, Manchester United were half-heartedly linked with Southgate himself back in 2002, 2003, when he was a decent Middlesbrough centre-half, and he would have been a decent fill-in option when Rio Ferdinand was banned for 9 months, but that was 20 years ago. That's when the Manchester United connection should have ended forever. Having him as manager at Old Trafford now, it would be a recipe for disaster. I don't care that he's done well as England coach. I don't care that he has an 8-1 win over Manchester City on his CV. A club like Manchester United should never, ever be appointing a bloke who left club management 15 years ago. I remember when Newcastle appointed Kevin Keegan from the wilderness in 2008. It felt like he'd been out of the game so long that Mike Ashley might as well have poached a caveman from the Amazon rainforest. Some poor fella who's been mating with chimps for a decade has forgotten how to speak and now thinks doing a poo in the fridge is acceptable. Everybody was half expecting Keegan and now forgotten what a corner flag was. Yeah. He'd only been out of the game 3 years. That is it. Southgate has been disappeared from regular club management football for nearly 2 decades. And even that was a poisonous, garbage relegation failure. Southgate being given a Manchester United job really makes no sense. Even historically, lads, because the England gig is such a long, draining, poison chalice where you get beaten up by so much bad press that it sort of subconsciously makes you look less desirable in the eyes of chairmen. I mean, look at every other England manager. The job they take after the England job is never an upgrade on the one they had before they took the England job. Sam Allardyce was at a struggling Sunderland before the England job. Yeah, 1 match for England later, and he's rewarded with a struggling Crystal Palace before him. Roy Hodgson was at a mid-table West Brom after England. Also went to a struggling Crystal Palace. Fabio Capello, before England, was at the biggest club in the world in Real Madrid. After England, his next job in club management was with Jiangsu Suning, some team in a Chinese village which no longer exists. Steve McLaren bounced from Middlesbrough, a top-half Premier League club who reached the Europa League final, don't forget. He went from them to FC Twente in Holland. I mean, a decent gig, I guess, but not an upgrade. Sven-Göran Eriksson was at a Champions League powerhouse like Lazio before the England job. Afterwards, he's given a crazy job at a chaotic Man City. Yes, for the younger viewers, yeah, the Man City job is well sought after now, but not in 2007. Not when they just finished 14th in the league, hadn't scored a single goal at home in the second half of the entire season, with their top scorer being Joey Barton with 6. It makes 0 sense for Southgate to jump from Middlesbrough to Manchester United. No sense at all. Lads, I don't care if England win the Euros or not. Southgate should not be rewarded with a Champions League job. I mean, Otto Rehhagel somehow won the Euros with Greece. He only got 1 job in club management after that. 14 games at Hertha Berlin, where they were relegated from the Bundesliga. See what I mean about average managers camouflaging themselves in international football? Southgate should get, okay, I'm going to say a Premier League job. Okay, I think that is fair, because he has done a good job with England. He has managed in the Prem before. Okay, he hilariously failed, but go on then. Okay, he deserves another crack at the top league. Fine. He's worked with some huge personalities, some world-class stars. They all seem to like him. I'm not going to disrespect him by relegating him to a Derby County or a Hull. And I don't think he's somebody who should be chucked in the deep end at a struggling team in a relegation battle either side of Christmas. I don't want to be listening to Michael Bublé building out Let It Snow on the radio in some small sandwich shop and see on my phone that Southgate has been dragged in as a Big Sam-esque firefighter. That is a recipe for disaster. We saw how well he coped with his last relegation battle. Southgate screams of a summer appointment where he can start afresh. So that rules out this summer. So in the summer of 2025 then, after a year off, go and take the Wolves job, or maybe the Crystal Palace gig once Oliver Glasner falls flat in his face. Either one would be decent. Maybe at a push, Everton. That is probably the biggest possible job I could recommend Southgate getting. Mid-table at best. Not Manchester United. No way, never ever. If Southgate comes in, what happens to Steve McLaren? I mean, does Southgate keep hold of his former manager as some sort of freakish pet? Some sort of weird power play? Forcing his old manager to now call him boss? Just clicking his fingers and forcing McLaren to fetch him cookies whenever he's hungry? Lads, if Southgate takes this job, then you would have had 5 years at least of having ex-Middlesbrough managers sitting on the bench. I mean, the natural evolution would then be having Gordon Strachan back at Old Trafford in 2026, munching on a baguette stole up his sleeve at Greg's. Anyway, that's the interview. Let me know how bad is Southgate. Let me know in the comments, alright? Let me know. What do you think? Let me know. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give a like, share, and subscribe. And as always, I'll talk to you in a while.